On today's episode, a preview of Europe's toughest mudder, Midlands. This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome back to World's Toughest Podcast. My name is Will Hicks. Thank you for listening. You are listening to the number one rated OCR podcast in the world because of listeners like you leaving ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts and Amazon.com. Thank you for supporting the show with your kind words. On today's show, we preview Europe's toughest mudder with Ian K. But before we start, you can email me at willhicks@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at World's Toughest Podcast, and you can find us on Amazon Alexa by enabling the World's Toughest Podcast skill. You can be a part of the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Amazon, and I will read it in a future episode. Just search Apple Podcasts or Amazon for World's Toughest Podcast and click Write a Review. Those reviews keep us number one. Thank you. Let's talk about Europe's toughest mudder. In a few minutes, we're going to talk with Ian K. Ian is a mudder from the UK and a friend of the show, along with a few other guys from over there. He helps me stay current with everything TM UK related. Europe's Toughest Mudder Midlands is a 8-hour race on a 5-mile looped course. The man and woman who run the most laps in 8 hours are the winners and are crowned Europe's Toughest Mudder. The race will take place this weekend, May 12th and 13th. It will start at midnight on Saturday night and end at 8 a.m. Sunday morning. Pricing is as follows. First place for the men and women is £4,000, approximately $5,400 US. Second place is £1,400, approximately $1,900 US. Third place is £800, approximately $1,100 US. Fourth place is £400, approximately $550 US. Fifth place is £200, approximately $275 US. Something interesting with the pricing to note, with the current conversion rate, all of the prize money for Europe's Toughest Mudder is about 10% higher than the prize money for Toughest Mudder in the US. Except for second place. Second place in the UK, if you convert it over to dollars, is about 5% less than the US equivalent, getting second place at Toughest Mudder here. It's still more money than third place, so don't, slow down if you're in second place. You want to win, but it's not as much as a second place in the States. The top 5 finishers will also qualify as elite contenders for World's Toughest Mudder. Last year at World's Toughest Mudder, elite contenders were awarded with the best position on the start line, with reserved pit space, and they qualified for a bonus prize if they won World's Toughest and hit a mileage goal. Tough Mudder has not officially announced the elite contender perks yet for 2018, but they will probably be similar to last year. Other prizes and awards you can earn this weekend include complete 25 miles, and you will receive a 25-mile Toughest Mudder patch. Complete 50 miles, and you will receive a 50-mile Toughest Mudder patch and free entry into World's Toughest Mudder. The man and woman who run the fastest first lap, called the sprint lap, will receive a green bib and a free Tough Mudder entry. And each runner who completes 8 hours will receive the black 8-hour Toughest Mudder headband. Last week at Texas, when they were passing out the Toughest Mudder headbands, the black ones, they noticed there was a typo on some of them. They said Tougher Mudder. They were the black 8-hour headbands, but they said Tougher Mudder. As soon as Team MHQ realized it, they pulled them away, but some of them got out there. They're not worth anything. Don't pay, $100 for it on eBay, but it's just kind of a cool typo. In addition to those awards, all men who complete 30 miles and all women who complete 25 miles will qualify for contender status at World's Toughest Mudder. Contender status will get you a better start line position, early access to select your pit area, and is a requirement to qualify for prize money at World's Toughest Mudder. And you get a special bib. Last year, the open bibs were white. The contender bibs were white with an orange stripe across the middle, and the elite contender bibs were all orange. A few episodes ago, in our Toughest Mudder preview, we talked about some rules and some common questions. I'm going to replay that section here. If you have already heard this, feel free to skip ahead 15 or 30 seconds. This is for the people running Europe's Toughest Mudder this weekend that might need a quick refresher. I'm not going to read the entire list of rules. If you are running this weekend, they've already been emailed to you. Reading and understanding the rules is your responsibility, not mine. Something else I want to emphasize, this podcast you're listening to right now is not a production of TMHQ. I am not an employee of Tough Mudder. The podcast has zero official affiliation with Tough Mudder. If you listen to the rules that I am about to summarize and have a problem with anything on race day, it is on you. Not me, not World's Toughest Podcast, not Tough Mudder. You are an adult. Read the rules. I am happy to help, but knowing and understanding the rules is 100% your responsibility. If you have a problem and you're angry about it, you can email me. ignorespam@juno.com. Definitely hold your breath waiting for a reply to that email. But I do want to highlight a couple of common questions. Do I have to wear a wetsuit? No, you do not have to. But you should definitely bring one, just in case. Do I have to wear a strobe? Will a glow stick work instead? Yes, glow sticks are fine. In the past, they were kind of a gray area, and we all got away with it. But now it's official, it's in the rules, glow sticks are fine. You have to have a headlamp, and you have to have a strobe or glow stick to do the race. You won't be able to get to the start line without that. You won't be able to start any additional laps without a headlamp and a strobe or glow stick. If I need medical help, am I disqualified? It depends, but probably not. You can go to the medical tent for up to 30 minutes without being disqualified. Medical does not want to DQ you. They know about the 30-minute time limit, and they will hustle to get you back out. Here is how you can be medically disqualified. If you are transported by medical, you will be disqualified. If you are helped by a lifeguard, you will be disqualified. You can even get medical treatment on the course as long as they don't transport you, and as long as it takes less than 30 minutes, you are golden. But don't be afraid of medical. They are on your side. How much pit space will I get? Officially, they say you'll get 2 feet by 4 feet. Depending on how many people are at the race this weekend, you may get less than that. You may get none of that. But you only need probably half of that. You're only going to be in the pit a few times. Probably just 2 or 3, 4 or 5 times in the pit for 99% of you listening right now. Will not be in the pit more than 4 or 5 times. You don't need a whole flat of water. You don't need 3 wetsuits. You don't need 4 different varieties of Tailwind and granola bars. Here is a rule of thumb. If you can't carry everything in one trip, you're bringing too much. What other gear do I need? What you need, what you're required to have to run the course is a headlamp and strobe and your timing chip and bib. Other than that, that's what you need. There's obviously, you want to have nutrition. You want to have water, Gatorade, or Tailwind. Here's two pieces of gear that I love for toughest mudder. Blegmitz and my Merrell Agility Peak Flex trail running shoes. It's too late for you to get Blegmitz for this weekend. They ship from Australia. They will not get here in time. But you can get a pair of Merrell trail running shoes when you get there. They won't be open Saturday night, though, so you'll need to go there Saturday morning during the regular Tough Mudder. Go to the Merrell tent. They'll have a big orange tent up. You can try the shoes on. You can try them out. They'll have an inclined climbing wall kind of thing. And you can have a brand new, sexy pair of Merrell trail running shoes for toughest mudder. The new Merrell All Out Crush 2.0s with the BOA lace are great, but they do run like a half size big. So be aware of that. Just be aware of that when you're checking them out. When will all the obstacles open? They will open when they open. They'll probably all be closed at the very beginning, and some may open at 12:15, maybe not. Most will be open by 12:30. They should all be open by 1 a.m. That is 100% subject to change, though. That was different at every single toughest mudder last year that I went to. If it's different than what I just said when we get there, talk to TMHQ, not me. Or you can email me, ignorespam@juno.com. If you have any other questions on the rules, please consult the rule book that was emailed to you. Knowing and understanding the rules is your responsibility. Let's talk about the elites that we plan to see at Europe's Toughest Mudder. Before we do, I want to say thanks to Ian Kay, Carol Fechter, and Jim Campbell for their help with this section. Their assistance was invaluable. Thanks, guys. Actually, before we talk about the elites that we're going to see, let's talk about the elite we are not going to see. Jon Albon. Jon is the reigning champion of Europe's Toughest Mudder and is arguably depending on how you want to make the case, the best or second best obstacle course racer in the world. Jon will not be at Europe's Toughest Mudder this weekend to defend his title. Last year, in 2017, Jon ran 50 miles for first place at Europe's Toughest Mudder. This weekend, he will be competing at the Trail Running World Championships in Spain. Jon won World's Toughest Mudder 2 years ago and 3 years ago as part of a team, so he will already be qualified as an elite contender for World's Toughest Mudder. So he doesn't need to worry about the qualification, but we will miss him this weekend. He is one of the best in the sport. But good luck this weekend in Spain, Jon. Some of the elite men we do expect to see. Michael Schutt will be there. Of the men that I have heard that are planning to attend, I would say Michael is the favorite to win the race. Michael finished in 5th place at World's Toughest Mudder in 2017 and in 3rd at Europe's Toughest Mudder last year. Another man to watch at Europe's Toughest Mudder, Lucas Aberhan. Lucas placed 4th at Europe's Toughest Mudder last year with 40 miles. He also got 70 miles at World's Toughest in 2017. Those two men are the two men who finished in 3rd and 4th last year, Lucas and Michael. The men who finished in 1st and 2nd will not be there this year. Jon Albon finished in 1st. Chad Trammell finished in 2nd last year. Two other men to keep an eye on, Chris Moore and Scott Brown. Chris has run World's Toughest Mudder 3 times, with his best year in 2014 with 70 miles. 2014 was, of course, the year with the giant sandstorm. Scott Brown finished 5th overall at World's Toughest Mudder 2015. 2015 was the year at World's Toughest where we were in and out of the water constantly. Scott finished that year with 80 miles. On the women's side, there are several heavy hitters coming. Suzanne Kraus, Ulrika Evensen, Sorrel Lewis, and Vanessa Gebhardt will all be participating. Suzanne Kraus won the race last year. She also placed second at World's Toughest Mudder 2016 with 80 miles, behind only Stephanie Bishop. Ulrika Evensen placed fifth at World's Toughest Mudder 2017 and third at Europe's Toughest Mudder 2017. And Sorrel Lewis, the fifth place finisher from Europe's Toughest Mudder 2017, will also compete this year. Here's your wild card woman. Vanessa Gebhardt will be there this weekend. She ran the 24-hour Spartan Ultra Beast Championship in Iceland this year and finished in second place behind WTM vet Morgan Mackay. Here's the fun part. Vanessa has her own OCR podcast. This is a true story. It's called Podium, but with a 1 instead of an I. So actually, it's called Pod One But here's the taste.
Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu Podium, der OCR Podcast. Unsere 6. Episode heute dreht sich um das Heimrennen von Simon und mir, dem Spartan Race München.
If you speak German, you should check that out. Annika Frederick, talking to you. We're going to talk through the course with Ian Kay in a minute, but first, let's read some iTunes reviews. Let's read some Amazon reviews. These are from Amazon.com. World's Toughest Podcast is the only OCR podcast available on Alexa. Check that out sometime. Caitlin Ritter's dad, Mr. Ritter. If you'd like to leave us a review on Amazon, you can do it, even if you don't have an Alexa. Just go to Amazon.com, search World's Toughest Podcast, click write a review. And the Amazon reviews actually really matter to help other people find the show. Like, Amazon cares a lot more about the reviews than Apple does. I care about the Apple reviews. Apple doesn't. On Amazon, Molly Kenneth writes, "Great guy, great podcast. 5 stars. Will, thanks for being the glue of reason that holds us crazies together. Such a great balance of super elite and super normal. You are pragmatic enough to talk about shoe quality, insightful and able to provide big picture perspective on Team HQ's latest moves, and emotionally intelligent enough to not shy away from the real people that are open and honest. But you help us connect to them and one another. You are much appreciated. Sincerely, Molly Kenneth." Thank you, Molly. Molly was our guest on the show last year on a very popular episode called How to Not Die at World's Toughest Mudder. Molly and I are talking about doing a follow-up episode this year. Thank you for those kind words, Molly. I sincerely appreciate them. Our next review comes from Samantha Thompson. Samantha writes, "Best OCR podcast, 5 stars. This is seriously the best OCR podcast for tips and tricks, as well as great interviews. Newbies and veterans should all listen." Thank you, Samantha. We do have both newbies and veterans listening. Some people listening right now have never run an obstacle course race in their life. And some people listening right now have won World's Toughest Mudder. Wire to wire. I don't want to name names.
5 stars.
But we definitely have a wide range of listeners. Thanks again for the kind words, Samantha. Our last review comes from Michael Stefano. Hey, Mike. Mike writes, "The best OCR podcast on Amazon. 5 stars. It also might be the only one so far, but it doesn't make it any less true. Do you want to prepare for World's Toughest Mudder or any of the other many Tough Mudder events? Then listening to Will Hicks is a must. With great previews, recaps, and having both elites as well as regular weekend warriors on his episodes makes this show appealing to all fans of the sport of obstacle course racing." Thank you, Mike Stefano. Mike hosts the OCR podcast, Obstacle Running Adventures. He has a small group of friends, his team, that run primarily a bunch of local races in the Northeast. They do spread out. They came to World's Toughest Mudder last year. And they talk about the races that they run on his show. He has a co-host, Caitlin Ritter, that loves food tourism and towels. But who doesn't love those things? If you're looking for another OCR podcast, especially if you live in the Northeast, you should check them out. Obstacle Running Adventures. If you'd like to be a part of the show, like Molly Kenneth, Samantha Thompson, and Mike Stefano, you can leave a review for the show also, and I will read it on a future episode. Just open the Purple Podcast app on your iOS device and search for World's Toughest Podcast. Click our logo, and then scroll down and click Write a Review. If you're on Android and you want to be a part of the show too, go to Amazon.com and search for World's Toughest Podcast. Click our logo, click the big box that says Enable Skill, and then click the big box that says Write a Customer Review. And I will read it on a future episode. Thank you. It's time to talk Europe's Toughest Mudder with Ian K. Let's go to the phones. Ian K., thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Will, for having me.
Ian, you're one of my most reliable listeners in the UK, feeding me information and scoops as they become available over there.
Yeah, well, we try to help. Tough Mudder's a big company, and you can't keep on top of everything, so we do try to help.
You're very kind. I appreciate the heads up.
And plus, we are slightly different for some strange reason. I don't know what's going on with you guys over there, but our season's going okay so far.
This weekend is Toughest Mudder UK Midlands. You ran this last year, and we have the course map for this year. Tell me about the venue the race will be held.
The venue, it's at lovely Beaver Castle. It's not spelt like that. It's spelt like Belvoir or however, but the locals insist it's Beaver Castle. It's quite a nice venue. It's relatively flat for the most part. Some of the hills it has are more on a diagonal than straight up. It probably promises to be a lot muddier this year. I'm not sure if you're aware, in the States, we've had quite a lot of rainfall this winter. And, the rumours are that Mud Mile might be longer, and, it could be quite muddy out there this year.
Do you actually see the castle while you're running?
You do. You don't run past it. It's up in the distance. It's outside the village, and to be fair, for 6 hours, you don't know where you are. You could be anywhere, to be fair.
Now, you ran this same course last year. You're looking at the course map for this year. Are there any big differences you see between this year and last year?
The actual route itself looks fairly similar. I'm not completely sure. As we'll go through the map, the first set of obstacles may be in a slightly different order in terms of a route, but last year's route finished with a big run towards up to a back straight and then back down again. So it does look fairly similar, Will.
Before we talk about the obstacles, let's talk about the weather. You and I were just looking at the BBC weather report for the weekend.
It's disappointingly looking quite warm, actually, by UK standards, which is... It could be a bit of a trap because mudders are the same no matter where we are. We're all having the wetsuit debate, let's be honest. Look at the groups, and that's the topic. Should I wear a wetsuit? Should I wear a shorty? Should I wear a mankini because we're Brits? Please don't, for the record, please do not. Weather like this could be a bit of a trap. I personally plan to run in a wetsuit. I've got a nice shorty with long arms that has served me well. I had planned to also throw a windbreaker over the top, but I'm worried now I'm going to melt. The weather is looking between low of 9 and highs of 11 at this moment in time, but saying that, we are constantly changing at the moment, so fingers crossed it'll get a bit colder.
What were the actual numbers we were looking at as far as the Celsius numbers?
The Celsius, I think we were starting at about 11 degrees at around about midnight and dropping to about 9 degrees. We've got I think we were saying about a 50% chance of rain thereabouts. And also, in terms of wind, it doesn't look that bad. It's odd. And again, I'm sure there's plenty of listeners out there going, why is this British guy complaining about it being too warm? But we do kind of like it miserable over here. It's makes for a better experience.
People were saying something similar in Texas last week. Oh, it's warm, don't even bring your wetsuit. But there were people dropping out at 4 a.m. because they were cold. There was no rain, but okay. You're in and out of the water, and if you're not running, if you're walking most of the lap, then it'll catch up with you quick.
Yeah, and as you've probably noticed, we'll go through the map in a minute, there's a lot of water on this course in terms of what Tough Mudder have put out there. So yeah, it probably is good advice to, even if you're not going to start in a wetsuit, at least bring it. Yeah,
always bring it. And if you have a windbreaker, a cheap windbreaker, just something $15, $20 or pounds, whatever, I'd bring that also.
Yeah, we can get them a lot cheaper over here.
Let's talk about the obstacles. Talk about the course. It starts with a long run, and then the first obstacle is Pitfall.
Oh, the Pitfall. That was here last year and probably ended more races than people will admit. It's a bit of a horrible obstacle on this kind. This is, for your listeners, a trench of water which they have used JCBs to dig little trenches through it. So as you're going through, every so often, you'll suddenly fall down a hole, and if you're not careful, you can seriously hurt an ankle or that. In terms of best way to get through it, there's two techniques. The easiest technique is to just take it careful and just wade through it. Maybe watch the person in front of you, and when they fall, just make sure you brace yourself. The other obstacle, the other way, and I was a bit debating whether to say this, but they do tend to, around the outside, they don't dig as many trenches. So maybe head to the outside and you may be lucky. And no doubt if TMHQ hears this now, they'll get the JCB out, and that'll be my race over at the weekend.
It's good advice either way, because if you're on the edges, if you have an unexpected fall, you can use the edge to catch yourself.
Yeah, that is good advice. Definitely. So use the edges, except when I'm going through.
The second obstacle is boa constrictor.
Yeah, that's an obstacle. I'll be honest, Will. I've only been doing Tough Mudder since 2015. I've never come across that. I'm aware it's an old obstacle from the vault. I believe it's like a combination of Sewer Rat and the one from Shawshank. There we go. So you tend to go down a tube first and then up a tube. But I don't know about you, Will. I've seen lots of variations of this, so I'm not sure what we're going to get.
Yeah, sometimes you'll go up a little hill and then downhill through a tube, crawl under some barbed wire, and then crawl uphill through a tube. Sometimes there's like a water mud pit in the middle, or sometimes it's just two level pipes you crawl through. So it's something pipe related.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure what they do in the States, but last year on this course, there were quite a few obstacles that were open from the get-go, Pitfall being one. So it'd be interesting to see whether or not they open that from the start or whether they allow you that sprint lap on that.
The ones that they have open from the start tend to be the ones that a lot of people can get through at once, like Pitfall or Quagmire. You won't see Funky Monkey open at the beginning, or Loch Ness Monster.
No. I think Kiss of Mud probably as well, if I remember last year.
Speaking of Funky Monkey is the third obstacle.
It is, and you've probably already noticed that it says Funky Monkey the Revolution, which suggests, and the rumours are that it will have water.
So last week at Toughest Mudder, Texas, they had a Funky Monkey. They called it Spunky Monkey, and it was over water, but it had a variation to the first half. Instead of just climbing uphill with the monkey bars, they had put plywood on top of the monkey bars, so you could not stick your hand. You couldn't use the regular orange monkey bars, and they had diagonally between where the old bars were. They had the bars that they had last year for Stage 5 Klinger. Remember those?
Yeah.
They're not the exact same, but they're similar, and they're put diagonally. Like every other bar is facing 45 degrees the other direction. And so you have to use those to climb your way up to the top. Downhill is the wheels from Revolution, just like last year.
Well, it could be interesting to see what they do over here, because our Stage 5 Klinger was slightly different to yours. Ours was just tubing. I noticed you had proper bars. It was wooden, if I remember, over there. But yeah, ours was just made of the same material as Funky Monkey, so it will be interesting to see. They may use climbing holds, or they may just use the regular. We'll have to see. From my point of view, it probably won't matter a great deal. That's a swim in a penalty loop for me most times. But yeah, I have been doing some climbing, so depending what the holds are, I may give it a go. The best advice on your listeners, and it's weird giving advice to people on an obstacle I rarely complete, is go fast and steady. Don't gas out your arms by hanging around too long. And towards the end of a race, play it smart. If you're not going to do the obstacle, well, it's the same penalty if you fall in at the end as it is if you fall in at the beginning. So just play it smart and conserve yourself if need be.
The next obstacle is Loch Ness Monster.
This is an interesting one when it comes to toughness. You know how during a regular Tough Mudder, Loch Ness is everyone's favourite obstacle. Let's be honest, everyone loves Loch Ness. They sell tickets off it. Yeah, in toughest, I can't stand this obstacle. It has everything to do with the fact that it's a hard obstacle to complete on your own. It's very hard, and it's a compulsory. So around about 6 a.m., 7 a.m., when there's no one there, it's quite hard to go. And over here in the UK, you've heard this before, our Loch Ness is slightly bigger, so the tubings are a bit heavier. It's quite hard to get it going. Again, it's odd, but I honestly wouldn't miss Loch Ness if it wasn't on this course. And I've probably just alienated about 99% of your listenership. So sorry about that, Will.
After Loch Ness Monster is Kiss of Mud 2.0.
Barbed wire crawl, probably open from the start. My technique, if they allow us, is to roll. It's usually it's strung high enough over here that you can roll through it and you can conserve energy. You'll probably not be able to do that on the first lap, but from lap 2 onwards, you should be able to.
After Kiss of Mud is Pole Dancer.
Yeah, this is one that I can't recall seeing, and I know someone on Facebook had to basically Google it and found a couple of videos from the States, which shows this is like 2 parallel bars whereby you use your arms and you're in an upright position and your hands are by your waist and you're just shuffling along using your triceps, almost like a dip bar. It looks like it goes up and then down. It can either be over water or not over water. Again, I can't recall ever seeing this, so I think it's from the vault. And again, there's always a chance that it hasn't been seen since 2014, or we couldn't see a video from it. It could be a new obstacle that they've just used the same name. So we'll have to wait and see.
If it's the one you and I are thinking of, it looks similar almost to those parallel bars they have at physical rehab centers, where people have to kind of stand on it, or not stand on it, but support all their body weight with their arms extended. And then, they can mix it up with the way they shape the bars.
So, I can imagine that's going to be quite a tough obstacle, particularly later on at night when your hands get a bit muddy. It's straight after Kiss of Mud, for one thing. So I reckon heading up is going to be tough.
We'll have to see. After pole dancer is cage crawl. What do you think of cage crawl?
I do love this obstacle. Cage crawl is one of my favourites, and I will admit I did vote for this one. So, it was one. I didn't vote for King of Mountain, but I did vote for cage crawl. We saw this at London returning this past weekend and the weekend before. It's been slightly different now. I don't know how it was in the States, but we used to have quite thin trenches, which could only really fit in maybe one mudder, maybe two. The trenches were a lot wider this time, and the cage that goes over the top was lengthways as opposed to the other way. So it'll be interesting. Again, I love this obstacle. My technique is not that bothered about getting water on my face, so I will just try and get through it as quick as possible, grabbing the top of the railings and just throwing myself through. Otherwise, you can risk getting a finger caught, etc. What could be interesting, Will, is we've not yet seen, although they have technology, we've not seen Rain Man. I wonder if for Toughest, because I don't see a lot of Toughest exclusives here, it would be nice if they brought that back.
It would. They had cage crawl at Texas last week. Yep. It did not have Rain Man. It was really, really long, though, probably 50% longer than I remembered it being from a couple years ago.
Oh, we'll see what we get. And like I say, personally, I think I'll be using that one to cool down. I am looking forward to cage crawl.
Yeah, you've been running for a while. It's actually a nice break because you can just kind of pull yourself through with your hands. I told Brian Gwiski a couple weeks ago, if you stay in the middle, there's usually a bar in the middle that runs the whole length of the obstacle, and you just focus on that bar, and that'll make sure you don't swerve left or right because you're upside down. And then also just to like lower your stress level, realize if everything goes terrible, you can just stand up, and that cage will move out of your way. It's not bolted down or anything.
Yeah, that's good advice. I'm not sure if we have the bar all the way down the middle because of the material they use here. But again, we'll just see. And yeah, if we have that bar, I'm going to be staring at it. That's great advice. Thanks, Will.
The 8th obstacle is Swamp Stomp.
Over here, that can really range. Sometimes I've seen them just put the sign out on a Sunday where it's got a bit muddy. And call it another obstacle. Or alternatively, it could be quite muddy. Keep your shoes tight and just get through it is the best advice.
After Swamp Stomp is Arctic Enema.
Everyone's favourite when it comes to toughest. Again, I'm not sure if you followed London this past weekend, but the volunteers have been almost trying to compete with each other to get it as cold and as icy as possible. People were carrying ice cubes with them a couple of miles later. So I'll be interested to know. I'm hoping there's an event the morning, so I'm hoping that they blow through the ice budget in that, and we'll just have a nice cool down. But we'll have to just wait and see.
Arctic Enema is weird at Toughest Mudder because it can either throw your legs into cramps or it can be a nice cool off break for you. It just depends on the course and the outside weather and how hard you've been running, I guess.
Yeah, I don't mind. I didn't mind Arctic Enema last year, but I was head to toe in neoprene, so it was the warmest one I've ever gone through. And the MVPs who were stationed last year made it a lot of fun. So, as fun as it could be at 4 a.m. in the evening.
The 10th obstacle is Creek Crusade.
Yes, this is, well, basically there's a natural stream that runs through this part of the course, so we have to get through it. And it really is just what it'll probably, if it's the same as last year, it'll probably be about waist deep, and you'll go in it, you'll come out, you'll go back in it. It can be, towards the end of the night, it can be quite difficult, can be quite slippy, so just be careful.
The next obstacle is Everest.
The Everest debate. Again, you may have missed this, Will, but over in the UK, Everest has had quite a few modifications recently. Unfortunately, again, probably got to be careful with how much I say on this. The UK mudders will know what I mean, but a particular newspaper ran an article about someone who injured themselves quite severely on Everest. And not really. I think they cut their lip or something, and they got quite a bit of publicity, and it didn't go down well. I don't necessarily think the changes that have been made are as a result of that, but they have made changes. At the moment, we're getting Everest 1.0, and it doesn't. At London, it didn't have the white sheet on it. It just had the grippy wood that's underneath. So I didn't get a chance to run London, but I understand it had quite a high success rate. What is interesting at London is it did have the 1.2 that you had at Worlds as well on the other side.
With the rounded lip?
The rounded lip, yeah. So half the obstacle was the standard one, half had the rounded lip. They both had a grab hold on it. So it'll be interesting to see what turns up, what they'll force us to do. For the tougher way, they forced them to do the rounded lip. You could not do the regular. Everest is one of those. Again, all your listeners probably know what to do with it. You just don't jump early, run as fast as you can, grab the lip, and if you're a larger gentleman like myself, just make sure someone at the top who can hopefully haul you over, and just go from there. Failing that, it's probably a nice sandbag.
I saw some videos. Oh, that's a good point. It'll probably be a penalty obstacle, so if you don't pass it, you don't have to worry about it. I saw some videos of last week of people doing Everest, and some of them were almost literally running up the entire way. They would run up like 90% and then kind of take their hands and pop up the last couple of feet.
Yeah, it was definitely smaller, and if you're good at this kind of obstacle, it probably will be quite an easy test for you. Although saying that, we don't know if it rains, it could get worse, and obstacle placement becomes a factor. The last obstacle you've been in is Creek Crusade. It could get awfully muddy there, so the whole thing could get muddy. Last year at ETM, Everest was, a obstacle that a lot of people did not do. We had the cliffhanger version, but by 4, 5 a.m., it was, unless you're Jon Albon, very few people were getting up it. There was a big queue for sandbags.
The 12th obstacle is Kong/Kong Infinity.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what they do with this. At London West, we had 3 lanes of Kong Infinity, and then the rest were regular Kong. If they only have the 3 Kong Infinity, it could lead to queues on course. So it'll be interesting to see whether they give you an option with perhaps a slightly larger penalty. In terms of completing, you've already given lots of tips when it comes to Kong. They're still valid. If you can thread the arms through, that's always a good one. Be careful if we are doing regular Kong this year. They don't appear to have the airbag underneath, so be careful if you fall. Kong Infinity, I've not had a chance to do it yet. I saw it at the weekend, and our rings looked awfully almost stuck down to the tube in some way. So I think people are having more success with going backwards into the obstacle. I'm not sure. How did you find Texas?
Texas, they had both of them set up. I think they had 2 lanes of Kong Infinity and then 4 lanes of Kong. And it was closed at the beginning of the race. They opened Kong after a while, and then at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, they closed Kong and opened Kong Infinity. So it was actually progressed in difficulty. It got harder as the night went on. But one thing that was different, as I was doing Kong, the You mentioned the air mattress there. The air mattress was either air mattress was higher than usual, or the rings were lower than they used to be, because it wasn't a fall onto the mat. It was kind of a drop down a couple feet when you lost the ring. You say they don't have the air mattress though. What happens if you fall off of Kong?
We had dirt underneath. It was low, like you were just explaining it. You were probably only maybe a foot, maybe 2 foot, depending on your height. So yeah, it was. Do you remember watching the video of the Tough Mudder 5K where we had the rings underneath the giant A-hole?
Sure.
It looked very similar, so that if you fell off, then you'd be able to. In theory, if you fall controlled, you'll be fine. The issue is if you fall uncontrolled, it could be quite dangerous. We did have some matting that was used by the side of King of the Mountain, and King of the Mountain does not feature on this course, so they could always just move the matting under there to try and offer some more protection.
The 13th obstacle is Devil's Beard.
Good old Devil's Boredom. This is, well, I'm sure all your listeners know, this is a cargo net with usually some hay bales underneath. It's not very exciting in the UK. Watch it now, it'll be the MVP, and I'll be made to eat my words. But yeah, you go under it, over the hay bale, and then out the other side. Personally, I prefer to going backwards and just let the net go over the top of me as I'm going through. I find that easier, because in a toughish, you tend to do this obstacle only one or two of you. At a regular mudder, you'll usually have a team of you. One will go in, hold it up, and you just walk through. That tends not to happen. At London West, they did nail it down pretty hard, so I understand. So again, I could be made to eat my words, and it could be the most difficult obstacle on the course. We'll just have to see. Something to be aware of at Toughest Mudder is it's really easy to lose your headlamp and strobe on this obstacle. That's a very good point. And get your bag caught if you're wearing a camelback, as I found out last year. The next obstacle is Birth Canal. Birth Canal is interesting. It has a good history with ETM. Last year, that was a horrible obstacle. They sent you, if you remember last year, we had Black Hole as well as a Legionnaire option. So last year they sent you through Birth Canal and then back out Black Hole, so you're doing it twice. They were the fullest I've ever seen, and again, one of the difference between the UK and the US, our Birth Canal, you each have your own channel with water, whereas I think in the US the channels go, is it east to west?
Yeah, the opposite way. So you're going under a bunch of different ridges instead of going along one long ridge the whole way.
Yeah, you're going along one long ridge, and yeah, it was one of the most difficult obstacles last year. Lots of people have different techniques for going through. Some people go on the back and just kick the slabs, the birthing position, which is kind of apt. Another one I've heard is going about halfway, stand up, not stand up, but going on a cat pose and then duck down quickly so the water goes behind you. I've still not found a preferred way. I tend to try and keep as low as possible and then usually kick off the side when I get stuck. I talked to some of the people from the States that went to Europe's Toughest last year, and every single one of them said they hated that obstacle in the UK. Yeah, if you're allowed foreign objects, I would have popped Birth Canal by around 6 a.m. It was horrendous, and it just got worse as the night went on because it was raining. So it was just filling up and up. The 15th obstacle is Irish Table. Irish Table is what in the States you call hero walls. Of course, over here, hero walls are what you call Berlin walls, and Tough Mudder really needs to sort out what they call their walls. Last year, we called this hero walls T-boned. It's the wall with a little bit of the ridge on it, the lip, just out about a foot. I actually prefer this to regular hero walls. The lip, again, I'm probably telling TMHQ way too much, but the lip on the far side, you tend to be able to reach around the wall to get your fingers underneath that, and you can then walk up the side of the wall and effectively belly flop onto the shelf. That's the lazy way, the non-Jon Albon, just leap gracefully over it way. So that's the best. If you have a team of you, then it becomes quite easy. Just make sure whoever you leave behind can get over it by themselves. Did you have... At Texas, did you have this obstacle?
We did not, and Texas was the first toughest Mudder to not have this obstacle.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I say, this obstacle actually appeared on. We're digressing a bit. I do apologise, Will, but at London West, it appeared in weekend 2. We have 2 weekends of London West. First weekend, we just had regular hero walls, and second weekend they added this as a kind of second loop option because there were some complaints about doing the same obstacle twice, and TMHQ UK pulled out all the stops to try and make it more interesting. We got this, and we also got Liberator in exchange for Skid Marked. So TMHQ UK are trying to make the best of what they can do with the 2-loop format.
The next obstacle is Mud Mile.
Mud Mile, the real interest will be how long this is, because from what I understand, they have a lot of muddy ground to work with. It's been, again, not sure if you pay attention to the weather in Grantham. I'm sure it's very entertaining for you and your listeners to pay attention to the weather in a small Lincolnshire village, but we've had a fair amount of rain over in the UK in the winter months, and the whole course is going to be muddy. Last year, this is an obstacle that gets easier as the night goes on. I'm sure you have the same. I've seen it on at World's Toughest. The ridges tend to collapse in on themselves as you're going through the night, so it becomes easier and easier to get over. From memory, the Midlands Mud Mile isn't the hardest. The mud tends to collapse quite quickly, but it is a tough obstacle to complete on your own. A difficulty we had last year is the area just after Mud Mile became boggy as well. So it was quite hard to run straight after. So it'll be interesting. Again, unless you're Jon Albon, who ran across it gracefully and just tapped everyone on the shoulder saying, "Good race." Yeah.
The next obstacle is the next to last obstacle, Operation.
Operation we had last year, and I guess it comes down to the fact that they built it once, then why not build it again? This is a simple obstacle in theory, in that it's like your childhood game. There is a hole in a wooden wall which you stick a pole through to another wall about, would you say it's about a foot behind, maybe a bit longer, maybe a metre or so, or a yard, and there's a hook on the end of your pole, and the idea is to get the ring and bring it back out again. The bad thing is that round the hole you're putting the stick through, again, better be careful, keep your PG-13. There is electrical, live electrics that if you touch the pole, you get a lovely shock. I did it once last year. I did not get shocked. I'm convinced I should have got shocked because I'm convinced I hit it multiple times, but I think I got lucky on the grounds that the medic was probably off doing something, so they turned it off. They never tell you when we turn it off. I then took the penalty. I think this obstacle probably comes down to a few things. One, how long the penalty loop is. I understand that at Chicago last year, they made you do like half a mile, was it?
It was almost a mile. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. Last year at Europe's Toughest, it was about a 200 yard sandbag carry, maybe 300 yards. So even walking, I was finishing that before people were doing Operation. I had a race with a fellow mudder, and I won doing it. Failing that, I think the best technique is one all your previous guests have said. Don't necessarily concentrate on keeping it steady through the hole. Just concentrate on hitting the wall on the backside, and then try and look for the little tag that you've got to collect. Although those tags tend to go as the night goes on, people tend to use them as souvenirs.
If it's raining really hard, or even like steady, I'm not sure if they can have the electricity on. So if the penalty is long and if it is raining, it might be worth taking a shot just to see if maybe they turned the power off and didn't tell you.
I might let the first guy do it and see how he gets on. But yeah, you're probably right. And yeah, it's again, Tough Mudder HQ are going to listen to this, defy us, and just crank up the electric.
The last obstacle is Pyramid Scheme 2.0. This is not happy ending.
It is not happy ending. We've not seen that yet. Do you remember how I was talking about Block Ness, how I love it on a regular course but don't particularly like it?
Sure. This
is the exact opposite. I hate Pyramid Scheme with a passion on a regular course. I don't like it. Yeah, I'll avoid it if I can. I just think it's a dangerous obstacle, and that probably goes for happy ending too, based on what we've seen. At Toughest, it's quite a nice obstacle. It's a rope climb, usually. You climb up a rope. Because of the angle, it's usually a lot easier than Everest on a rope, and you then come down the other side. Be careful, because it'll probably be slippy. You might want to, what I call duck feet up, where you turn your feet east to west as you're going up. But yeah, it's one of them. We're having a debate at the moment as whether or not it's going to be a penalty obstacle or not, because of the high completion rate when it comes to toughest or toughest. Last week at London West, again, I'm not sure if you saw the video, but Pyramid Scheme was massive. It was probably twice the size of usual. So it will be interesting to see what they do.
Ian, any last thoughts on this course here? What would you recommend for somebody if this is their first toughest mudder?
If it's their first toughest mudder, it's a cliche, but just enjoy it. Just go out there to enjoy yourself. There's a lot of, it's odd that there tends to be a lot of pressure over here for reaching the contender status, but most of the guys over here aren't going to World's Toughest Mudder, so it is just almost a status symbol. I'd say just almost, again, cliche, but run your own race. Take nutrition when you want. A lesson I learnt last year: don't pit as much. One of the big criticisms of Tough Mudder UK last year was the water stop was quite early in the course, and it still looks quite early if you look at the map. It looks about maybe 2 miles in, give or take. And in retrospect, I wonder if that's because they expect people not to pit at times. And it possibly is a good strategy to, particularly from your first lap going into your second, you feel you have to pit, but there's nothing in the rule books that says you have to leave. So if you're feeling good, maybe just carry on.
I think that's good advice if you're trying to get mileage. Everyone's used to running 10 miles anyway. Just skip the first pit for sure and see how you're feeling after the second lap, and maybe you skip that second pit also.
Yeah, maybe take some nutrition with you, because I don't think it's a feed station. We're used to on the full lap having feed stations. I'm not sure what you have over there. We have a nutty type bar over here, a Trek bar. I don't even know if they have that over in the States. It's not particularly pleasant, to be fair, but it does when you're halfway through. Take your nutrition with you, which could be an issue because of the alleged weather, because you're not going to want to wear too much, so you might not want to carry too much. But yeah, take what you can.
Ian, any last thoughts on Europe's toughest mudder, Midlands?
No, it looks like it's going to be a good course. I'm sure everyone's going to have a lot of fun. It looks like it's going to be well attended. The T-shirt looked like it had a lot of names on the back. I'm going to run with a large group of us. There's about 30 in Team Solo Mudders, which is probably a little bit of it's the name, and we're going to be accompanied by 7 very helpful volunteer pit crew. So that's going to be fun. So our first obstacle is going to be trying to find a space in the pit for all of us.
Do you have any sponsors or anything you want to plug?
Unfortunately, like some of you guessed, my sponsor is my wallet. It pays for a lot. No current sponsors. I'm trying to get a pretzel deal, but Penn State Pretzels are not returning my calls. But yeah, I just do it for the love, for the fun, etc.
Ian K, thanks much.
Thank you very much. Speak to you soon, Will.
Special thanks to Ian K for appearing as our guest this episode. Well done, Ian. Good to get you on here. Good luck, everyone, at Europe's Toughest Mudder. You are going to do great. Whatever happens, just don't stop. You'll get at least 1 or 2 more laps that way. If you see Mark James or Jim Campbell over there from the United States, tell them I said hello. And leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Amazon. I am almost caught up with our reviews, so I will read yours shortly. We'll see you next time. Go spend time with someone you love.
Back straight and then back down again. So it does look fairly similar, Will.
One second. Yeah, baby, what's up? You can. Just eat it outside or at the table, though, okay?
Okay, I'll eat it outside.
All right, love you. My daughter.
You should leave your kids in.
Yeah, no, that's the other guy's gig.